Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with a wrap-up video for the You're Laying on a Budget with Mono Red Storm in Modern. Happy with the deck, not happy with the results. Ended up going 2-3. That's not a bad showing with a budget deck against, I mean, the first match we went up against that Tarmogoyf cost more than our entire deck. So that if you account for that, then this deck performed incredibly well. And speaking of those matchups, the 3 losses against Eggs, Affinity, and that Tarmo Twin, I'm going to chalk up to more of a drawing very poorly. I mean, we mulled game 2 and 3. I mean, 3 was kind of or game 3 against the Tarmo Twin was kind of a bad keep, I think. But we did get very unlucky by not getting into that second land source as soon as we could. And then we could compile the cards to actually go off very, very quickly if we just had one more mana source. And then against the Affinity matchup and as well as the Eggs matchup, getting flooded with a 16 land deck is terrible. So when you draw like 7, 8, 9, 10 of your sources on a 16 deck, that it's just an awful feeling. But that's MTGO for you. So if you're playing this in Paper Magic, it won't happen as often getting these like clusters of cards. So I think we had the game won against Eggs and Affinity if it wasn't for those floods. And I mean, we could have turned around this to more of a 4-1 finish rather than a 2-3 finish. But such is life and such is Magic. And it is very risky with a deck like this. It is a glass cannon type deck that can be easily shut down. Now, again, I'm really, really liking how this deck is performing. I think the sideboard might need some help. Blood Moon doesn't seem as good as it used to be, at least in some of the matches we went up against. Blood Moon didn't really do much. Again, I don't even know if Blood Moon comes in against Affinity. They can still cast their artifacts, but the cards that I'm worried about in Affinity are going to be mainly the Inkmoth Nexus and the Blinkmoth Nexus, pumping up the Inkmoth Nexus. And if we can shut that down, it gives us an entire turn. And I don't know if it's worth it for Blood Moon or not for that to transpire. But Young Pyromancer is really the iffy card in here. You could definitely cut some of these out. I was just thinking that maybe Young Pyromancer could come in against decks that try to control you, and if you drop a Young Pyromancer second turn, you can establish enough 1/1 tokens, but it might not be the right card in here, and could be easily replaced with like Shatter Storm or Shattering Spree, or the Destroy an Artifact. They lose 5 life? Or any of those type of cards. I was even thinking Molten Rain might be decent in here to go with Blood Moon. So you can actually Molten Rain. I could actually see Molten Rain pretty sweet with Pyromancer Ascension. But if you do have counters on Pyromancer Ascension, you're most likely to go off without Molten Rain. So even cards, even another card that just, like a Gut Shot that just slowed down Affinity, which is another free spell that ups your storm count, might be okay. And I'd have to check out some of the other lists of Storm. And you could actually even use like Tormod's Crypt in this list to exile your opponent's graveyard if you're worried about other Storm decks or other like that Eggs deck. And yeah. So I'm sure there's plenty of options in red, and splashing a few colors can actually get you access to a lot of other hate cards. If you splash white, you have access to a ton of cards that would help this deck. If you splash into the blue, then it might just be worth it to go with kind of the mono blue or the blue red Storm. But I'm not even convinced that blue red Storm is better than this deck. This consistently has been going off on turn 4. When I used to play Storm, that's about what you wanted to hit was turn 4. Yes, turn 3 was very likely. But the thing I didn't like about Storm is they shut down your Goblin Electromancer and they shut down your Pyromancer Ascension. It was a lot harder than it seems in this deck to Reforge the Soul and just completely come back out of like the attrition war. Inquisition, Thoughtseize are being counterspelled, and then off the top, Miracle to Reforge the Soul. Boom, you're back in the game. You fill up your hand, and you're going to find that Past in Flames very, very fast. So let me know in the comments. Again, I don't have the greatest amount of experience playing Storm. This I'm starting, since I played this on my channel, and in developing this deck as well, I've had a lot of experience with it. And I love Locket of Yesterdays. This card is just insane. I think it's much better than Young Pyromancer. Yeah, they can bring an artifact hate, but a lot of times this can up your storm count. We haven't even begun to touch on this Empty the Warrens. Just going for like a 1-turn, throw out a ton of stuff and then empty the Warrens. Maybe empty the Warrens, we should put a Goblin Bushwhacker. Well, probably not a Goblin Bushwhacker. I've been told like Goblin Bushwhacker and Noxious Revival in the sideboard. So, because the problem with not running, or with running a deck that mills non-instant sorcery win conditions is you then, of course, can't cast them if they get milled. So I'm thinking we could go return all these Young Pyromancers. They didn't seem to quite work, and then put in a 1 of Goblin Bushwhacker. And then a 1 of Laboratory Maniac. Laboratory Maniac. However you spell it. Maniac. Laboratory Maniac in the sideboard, and that will give you another win condition against the Leyline of Sanctity, as well as anything that gets rid of your graveyard. You could still easily Reforge the Soul. And there's so many times I could have easily drawn my whole deck, and it saves time to draw your whole deck, but sometimes in response, you have to know they don't have response to it. But this is probably how I would do it. You could actually even do Burst of Speed in the sideboard. As creatures you control gain haste until a turn, and that way Empty the Warrens also is a kill condition. But Goblin Bushwhacker, Empty the Warrens can actually be a very fast win condition. Or you could up the count of defense grids, of course. You could put in counter magic, but again, it's not something I like to. You'd have to go in more of the blue. So I think this last Burst of Speed would be the best thing we do is Shatter Storm or Shattering Spree. One of these in the sideboard, just a 1 of, and then it's just more hate against Affinity if it's going to see a lot of play. It can slow Tron down, and it's just one mana, but it is sorcery speed, so maybe we'd want something that's instant speed. There's plenty of them out there that can get the job done and whatnot. So let me know in the comments what you'd put in the sideboard, how you thought this deck ran. I'm very excited this ended up being a budget deck because it was a deck that I spent a lot of time on to kind of perfect. And it's definitely holding its own weight in Modern, which is more than a lot of my Modern brews can say. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I know we've done Storm in the past, and I'm going to have some less redundant. There is some new brews coming out for both Modern and Standard. I'm very excited for M15 because there's a lot of cards that seem to be very budget friendly, as they will be rare, and then you can really build around them. Immortal Servitude is going to get some love. Johnny's Pridemate is one of my favorite cards printed, and we're going to get that in M15. I think we have enough of a shell to work around it, and so be looking forward to that. And I'm also going to be reviving the Rogue Deck Builder series on Gathering Magic. I know it's been a while since I've done that, so look for either next week or the following week after that to see the Rogue Deck Builder on Gathering Magic again. And I'm probably going to do a Legacy deck that I've been doing on my channel. Speaking of my channel, if you haven't checked out my channel, YouTube/Rogue Deck Builder. Come over if you like my brews. I don't play budget decks. Usually don't play budget decks on my Rogue Deck Builder channel. So if you can come over there, you can see some of my other wacky brews, and we're going to be adding some other personalities shortly here on the Rogue Deck Builder, I guess, kind of franchise. And if you'd like to support the channel, of course, go check out Cool Stuff Inc. and buy these cards from them. They completely fund this entire series of playing on a budget, as well as are a huge part in the success of Rogue Deck Builder. And if you want to support Rogue Deck Builder directly, I am selling playmats again. We have a bunch of new playmats coming out, so just come check my channel. And if you'd like to, kind of fly your colors, like I say, with a Rogue Deck Builder playmat, let me know. I can get one of those shipped off to you. So I appreciate all the support. It's been phenomenal. We've had phenomenal growth in the last year. I think it's been a year now, a little over a year since I've been doing Playing on a Budget episodes for Gathering Magic, and it's been a blast. And yeah, it couldn't have been a success without you guys. So big shout out to all the fans and to Gathering Magic and Cool Stuff Inc. for making this such a success. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.